Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'a sunnatahu ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome again to another episode of your weekly Islamic chat show, Guest of the Week, coming to you from Sharjah TV. As always, I'm your host Ismail Bullock, and today, inshallah, we're going to talk about living a balanced life. We know, and as we're going to hear in this episode, that Islam teaches for people to live a balanced way of life, a moderate way of life, taking the middle path. And to do that with me is Brother Mohammed Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
So of course, we should always live a balanced life. But of course, we're going to mention what is a balanced life, because somebody may say to themselves, you know, a balanced life is partying every day and having great fun. But that's obviously, we have balance within the guidelines of what Allah and revealed and what was the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ.
That's right, and this is an important element of our life, where when we look at things around us, everything is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in balance, in proper proportion. So when we look at our earth, when we look at the universe, when we look at the animals, plants, there is a perfect balance which we can see, although we might not be having complete information about everything. When we look at our human body, everything is in proper balance, like when it comes to our senses, when it comes to our body parts, like how it functions. If any body part is removed and put in a different place, it's not going to function as it is supposed to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything in proper balance. Having said that, Allah also gave us human beings the free will to choose what's right and what's wrong. And that's where our accountability lies. And not only that, Allah also sent a revelation, the Quran. Allah sent a messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to show us what exactly is proper balance, so that we can select that and we can adopt in our life to live a life of balance. But as we see today, everyone is talking about life balance. Mostly, if you see even in the corporate, in MNCs, and people are facing stress issues. People are facing depression. People are having anxiety attacks. And for that, they are trying to work out, like, how can they manage their lives? How can they balance their life? Because sometimes it's extreme stress, sometimes it's extreme workload, sometimes it's just nothing. Still the person is stressed because, as we'll see, he's not striking a balance. There are people who are not working, who don't need to earn. They have so much that their 7 generations can survive, but still they are feeling that imbalance. They are in depression, they are in anxiety. What's the reason? The reason is that we have adopted a lifestyle which is imbalanced, which is not balanced, and which is not as per our Creator. Mostly, when it comes to this aspect, we get to hear a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which we shall discuss here, that there were 3 people who came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they asked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they got, we can say, they got so influenced by that he's a prophet of Allah, so we should be doing more to upscale our ibadah. And one of them said, I'm going to fast and I'm not going to break my fast. I'm going to fast for the whole year. One of them said, I will never get married. I will stay like that. And this is, again, we are seeing that they want to be better Muslims. They want to be better in the sight of Allah. Therefore, these acts of ibadah, they said, we are going to do this. And one of them, he said, I'm going to pray all night. I'm not going to sleep. When the Prophet ﷺ came to know about this, so the Prophet ﷺ replied, and this is in Bukhari, by Allah, I am more submissive to Allah and more afraid of Him than you. Yet I fast and I break my fast. I do sleep and I also marry women. So here we see that in this hadith, it's talking about the basic necessities, the basic desires of human beings. Sleeping is a basic necessity, and in fact, it has a lot of benefits. when you look at the Quran and Sunnah. So it's not just there as something which is a waste of time, but it is one of the signs of Allah. Allah mentioned in the Quran that Allah made the day and night as signs for us. So it is one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when a person he sleeps, and then but again it depends, for what is his purpose and why is he sleeping, and of course that's not the topic of discussion, but it is one of the basic necessities. Other thing is nourishing our bodies through food. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I fast and I also break my fast. So there were days of the Prophet ﷺ where he was not fasting, and there were some days where he was fasting. There were days when he ate, there were days when he did not eat. And regarding marriage, and we know that this is one of the basic necessities of human beings, whether men or women, and whoever tries to abandon this for the sake of Allah in his sight, then he will cause more destruction than good, because the good and balance is only decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he thinks I'm not going to get married and I'm going to worship Allah, I'm going to study and I'm going to give da'wah and whatnot, but I'm not going to get married, and this person, he is going out of balance. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ told these people, that I marry women. So there's no one who can be more busier than the Prophet ﷺ. There's no one who can be doing better work than the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, I marry women. So here the Prophet ﷺ told us about this balance, this life balance, about basic necessities of life. And he advised these men who were in their own perspective thinking this is better. And this is the whole concept of our discussion today, that our perception of things need not be right always. We may think something, but we always have to see what does our primary source, which is the Quran, the word of Allah, and the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ, teaches us.
It's interesting because we that hadith is always, since new and old, scholars have always used that hadith as an example of how one can fall into extremism. That's because right. And they, like you said, they wanted to do something good, but they fell into extremism. So this is why it's very important to to be balanced.
Yeah. Now, if we look at the other side, now this is a major problem, because when we look at currently the world scenario, so we find more people falling into this imbalance rather than trying to be extra in ibadah. So like altogether, we have a small percentage of Muslims practicing Islam, practicing their deen, whereas we have a large portion of people who fall in the other aspect of imbalance, where they say that it's for their deen. They compromise their deen over dunya. So it's about money, career, over responsibilities towards Allah and His commandments, over the responsibilities which Allah has given him, the responsibilities as a husband, as a son, as a father, over his career and over his maybe education, or maybe his entity. And this is a problem again, because here people, they compromise and they sacrifice their actual purpose of life for a secondary purpose. We're not saying that life is not important, but then giving this preference over your deen, this is the actual problem. Focusing more on your desires and fame and the enjoyment of this world over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded. So if a person is in those boundaries, if he is in that limit, then that's acceptable. But here, when a person, he prefers this, so there are people who say, it's my career, after my career, after I do these things, worldly things, then I'm going to become more practicing, then I'll start praying, then I'll go for Hajj, then I will try to seek knowledge. So this is like the problematic imbalance, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this deen for us, knowing our human psychology, knowing our physical aspect, spiritual, emotional aspect, that we can balance things. And of course, there will always be more or less, but then whatever Allah has commanded us, that has to be done. And whatever Allah told us that this is not supposed to be done, which is haram, prohibited, that has to be abstained from. So considering the fact that a lot of people, they fall into their desires for fame, for money, for their desires for haram things, we have to always strike that balance and see that where am I heading, and is this something which will benefit me or no. So for example, one can be a successful business person, but not by abandoning his prayers or abandoning his family or not getting married or not nurturing his children. He should not do at the expense of this. So it's about prioritization, where yes, you can be successful, make a career, become a millionaire, no problem. But if your priorities are in place, then you are good to go. Another aspect is that selfishness and arrogance also creates this imbalance. So we see that the problem where people are just worried about themselves. It's just about me, myself, what I can get, what do I have in it, about getting money and fame and success. So it's always about this selfishness, which we see creates a lot of imbalance. So there could be a person who is selfish, and then he does not give the rights of others. He does not spend on his family. He does not spend what he's supposed to spend, give zakah and fulfill his obligations. When it comes to this aspect, then the person falls into imbalance. And also when it comes to arrogance, like a lot of people, they have this self-boasting attitude due to maybe fame or maybe being successful, getting some millions in their bank account. This causes the arrogance which stops them from worshipping and being humble towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, this causes imbalance in their life, where this worldly life and the materialistic things become everything for him. And then Islam just becomes like a part-time thing, whereas that's not the case. And recently, I was also looking at one of the speakers, who was trying to explain about, and that too, not from an Islamic perspective, but people were asking him that, what about this work and life balance? Like, how do we do this? So what he was trying to explain basically to a large audience, that it's not that you do one thing and then you get out and then you go and do the other thing. So work and life balance, it has to go hand in hand. Like he said, if it's not necessary that you have to finish one thing and then do the other thing, or you have to compromise one thing for the other. And similar thing, we say, like, so it's about synchronizing things. So Islam and our career are not separate. If I am working and if I am doing business, but when it's time for prayer, I will go and pray on time. If I am studying at maybe a prestigious university, but when it's time for prayer, when it's Ramadan, I will fast. When it's time for prayer, I will pray on time. And this is synchronizing, not that, okay, I'm just going to pray on Friday, one day, 6 days is my career. One day is for ibadah and the 6 days are for my dunya. This is actual imbalance and not balancing life.
Just going to hold you on that point because it's time to go for a break. Join us after this short break. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Just before the break, we touched on quite a lot of interesting points and, gave a nice introduction on the importance of balance and why we have to have this balance.
And also we were discussing the aspect that Islam is not something like a part-time thing in our life. So say, for example, we go to university, school, that's our main thing. Now maybe a football match or coaching or some type of sport, maybe karate or something, might be just that part-time thing which we are doing. That's not how we should treat our life and our career and Islam. Rather, Islam is our actual focus, and we see that everything synchronizes. Therefore, we mentioned the hadith, at the beginning, where people should not think and they should not get this idea, which sadly a lot of youngsters are told by people who are not knowledgeable, that if you become religious, you have to leave everything. You cannot wear good clothes, you have to abandon everyone, and then you have to be serious. You cannot enjoy, you cannot eat good food, you cannot literally play or have fun. Whereas all of these things are not correct. The proper balanced life is that one can enjoy and play with his friends. With the Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah, he used to joke and play with his companions and his wives. We know the famous incident where he raced with Mother Aisha radiallahu anha. And now, what better example do we want of entertainment rather than this? That too from the best of creation, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's a wrong concept where people think. But having said that, our focus every time should be the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We always keep Islam in front of us, the Quran and Sunnah as a criteria for us to judge what's balanced and what's not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا, that we have created you as an ummatun wasata, which can be translated as a balanced, a just ummah. And therefore, Islam is a religion of balance, and it's a religion of moderation. It does not tell us that you go and leave everything, leave your family members, leave the world, don't work, don't earn, and just keep worshipping Allah. This is not what Islam teaches. Nor is it that we get so influenced by this world that it's just this dunya. I just want to make my career. When I become 50, 60, then I will start thinking of Islam. And that's not what happens. That's not how it should be. And knowing about Allah, the Tawheed of Allah actually brings balance in our life. When we know about the Tawheed of Allah, when we know who Allah is and what does Allah want from us, this is where we understand the balance. And one of the examples is, about the description which Allah gave in the Quran about Himself, that Allah is Ghafurur Rahim and Allah is also Shadidul Iqab, that Allah is most merciful, forgiving, and Allah is also severe in punishment. Now here, this is in Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5. Here we see that Allah is giving hope to those who are turning to Allah, those who want Allah's forgiveness, those who want Allah's mercy, and Allah is describing that Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. On the other hand, Allah is also Shadidul Iqab, because the moment we just focus on one thing, the moment we just describe one thing, then the imbalance comes in the picture. But Allah also tells us He is Shadidul Iqab, He's also severe in punishment. Therefore, as Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he has described in detail in his works about fear and hope, where these are like the wing of a believer. A believer is always between fear and hope, and this is the actual balance. And as he has described, if the one wing of the bird is cut off, then it cannot fly. Similarly for us, if we go out of balance, then we cannot live this life as we're supposed to live, and we cannot fulfill our duties. The moment we become just fearful and we don't have any hope from the mercy of Allah, then we will go into imbalance. And that's what we see. There are so many people, they don't know that Allah is forgiving and Allah can forgive the most heinous sins which they have committed. Whatever major sins they have committed, Allah forgives. And a lot of people, like I've heard literally people say, I'm anyways going to go to hell, so I might as well keep doing this. Because they don't know the actual concept of Islam, and they don't know the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah forgave so many examples we have from the Sahaba, from the righteous people, and they turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah accepted their tawbah. Similarly, there are, on the other hand, the imbalances. There are so many people who say, yes, Allah is Ghafurur Rahim, Allah will forgive whatever I do, and there's no fear, and Allah is only loving, and Allah only loves, and it's only peace and love. Whereas there are so many verses about Jahannam, there are so many verses about Allah being severe in punishment, and there are literally punishments described in the Quran, that how people of Jahannam will be punished. And there are examples given like Fir'aun and his likes, who are being punished and who will be punished. So it's only deceiving our own selves, it's only trying to fool our own selves when we try to just see things from one perspective and not see it completely. We are just trying to actually make our own selves happy on a false foundation. So here we have to see that we don't need to give up this world to be a good Muslim. We don't have to give up pleasures and whatever Allah has made halal, as Allah mentioned in the Quran, that these all enjoyments and halal things are for the believers. And this is what is provided by Allah. So a person should enjoy these, thank Allah, show gratitude, and then one of the major aspects is that he worships Allah and uses those blessings to worship Him. And this is what a believer should do. Allah also mentioned in the Quran in Surah Qasas, ayah number 77. Seek through that which Allah has given you the home of the hereafter, yet do not forget your share of the world, and do good as Allah has done good to you. Now Ibn Kathir here, he mentions about this verse from Surah Qasas, that do not forget your share of the world means whatever Allah has permitted you in this world, food, drinks and clothing, housing and marriage. For your Lord has a right over you and your body has a right over you. This is what Ibn Kathir, he explains. Also, Imam Malik rahimahullah, he said what was about this verse is that it means living and drinking without imposing unnecessary restrictions on oneself. So I have subhanAllah literally seen, there are these so-called, who are pretending to be religious and who are actually inviting towards shirk and bid'ah. They literally stop people from eating halal, and they give like something, you have to do this, then this will happen. You have to stop eating non-veg food, so this will happen. Whereas Allah made everything halal for us. Whatever is halal, one can eat. And the moment we enter this area, then not only we are going against the verse, but we are also falling into something which Allah made halal as making it haram. Now there is also a second view about this verse where and this is the majority of the opinion, that this verse actually, it's by Ibn Abbas and the majority, they said this verse actually means do not waste your life by failing to strive in doing righteous deeds and through this life attaining the hereafter. So when Allah is mentioning do not forget your share of the life, that means whatever we will be making for our hereafter, it has to be through this life. So Allah is telling, and this is what Ibn Abbas and the majority of the scholars said, this verse means that you use this life to go to the hereafter. So don't forget about that this life here, whatever the enjoyments you have, you use that. But this life is the only thing, as we've discussed so many times, and this is still quite famous, that you only live once. There's only one chance. We say literally, yeah, that's the case. This is the only life we have to make our hereafter.
Unfortunately, that is often misquoted. They usually often use that YOLO, you only live once, to say do whatever you want. Whereas we say it's the opposite. Don't do whatever you want. Live it within the correct guidelines. And like you said, even if you live within the correct guidelines, so many things, as we always, so many permissible things are out there, so many things you can do which are halal, and whatever's forbidden is in reality the limited things. But people always focus on those limited things as if they're the most important things in life.
That's right, and that's one of the tricks of shaitan, where that's the reason now, subhanAllah, even in some studies and in psychology, there is this positive reinforcement where they counsel and they teach for the children, and it also pretty much applies a lot for the adults, that they say when you are telling your child not to do something, so you don't tell him don't do this. Tell him what is supposed to be done, because the human brain always conceptualizes the idea of not doing. If I tell you don't think about a red apple, the moment I tell you this, in your brain you will immediately think about a red apple. Rather, I'll tell you, okay, go and eat a banana. So this is how people try to explain that when we are telling people, you show the positive side, show them the positive side. And that's what we say. So in Islam, we see that there are just few things which are haram when it comes to eating and drinking and wearing clothes. And apart from that, the sky is the limit. Almost everything is halal for us. And the moment we start focusing on that, okay, this can be done, this can be done, this can be done. You can eat this, you can drink this, you can do this, you can enjoy here, you can do that. The moment we start doing this, those things will just go out of our focus, and we won't even be bothered about that. But the problem is, because of the influence, because of the bombarding of the influencers and generally in general the media platforms, it's becoming so widespread that which is haram, that becomes our actual matter of life and death. If I don't get this, I'm going to die. If I don't get this, I'm not going to enjoy. That's the actual problem, and we have to come out of that. Another aspect is that to have knowledge about what am I supposed to do. This is again the primary focus of balance in life. When we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, when we know Allah sent us the Quran, when we know Allah sent us guidance, it's also essential along with this to know what am I supposed to do to have a balanced life. And this is basically having two aspects. One is towards the deen of Allah. So to have knowledge, okay, what is my responsibility towards the deen? Okay, the fard, what am I supposed to do? How do I strike a balance? I'm supposed to pray 5 times a day, irrespective of my university, my college, my work. I'm supposed to pray there, I'm supposed to fast, I'm supposed to cover like this, irrespective wherever I'm working or whichever university I'm going to. And this is what will help us understand the balance of life. Because now what we're doing, we're not going to some professor, or we're not going to some life coach or expert to know, okay, what is balance, what is not. We're going to our Creator. We are going to Him and seeing, okay, this is balance. When we do this, this is not extremism, this is not imbalance, rather it's a balance. So if someone, he prays 5 times a day, that's not imbalance. If a sister, she covers herself in 40 degrees, that's not extremism, that's not imbalance. Rather, that's the balance which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described in His deen.
Just going to hold you on that point because it's time to go for a break. Join us, inshallah, after the short break. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So continuing on from the break, I mean, alhamdulillah, we've beginning to see the different things that we have in life, and the fact that, as you mentioned, following those things that have been laid down to us or been revealed to us, this is not extremism and it's not being relaxed either. This is guidance. So we always have to look for that guidance, because if we follow the guidance properly, we're always going to live a balanced life.
That's right. And the moment we know about and here we're just talking about the fard, the obligations upon a human being. The moment we know about that, and the moment we know about what is prohibited, this will automatically bring that balance in our life. And we will be, we will be having a clear sight of things. Not that my friend said this is okay, or my auntie said that's not okay, or my teacher said that's okay. The moment we go into this, then the problem starts, the imbalance starts, and then we are always in a confused state. Like, a lot of time in some cultures it happens where non-mahram, they are greeting each other by, literally hugging and shaking hands. And they say he's just a younger one, or they say he's just an elder one, and it's okay, it's fine, he's like your brother, he's like your father, and although he might be a non-mahram. So here we go to the Quran and Sunnah, simple as it is. Okay, what's described here, and what's balanced according to the Quran and Sunnah. And as you mentioned that, it might seem to be imbalanced or say not appropriate, but that's how it is. The Prophet ﷺ, when he preached the message of Tawheed, people thought that this is something which is, it's a weird thing he's saying. He's telling that there's only one God who's supposed to be worshipped, and all these are false gods. But that was the truth. So when we go to the Quran and Sunnah as a criteria, then it becomes clear that, okay, this is the truth and I am supposed to be upon this truth. And as Allah mentioned in the Quran, that Ibrahim alayhis salam, he was an ummah in himself. And we know that he was just one person. He was just one person and everyone, including his family and his father, everyone was against him. But Allah described him as an ummah, like a nation, because he was firm upon the truth. So what happens is when we check the balance of Islam and then we try to be firm upon it, that will also give boost our self-confidence, that will also give us firmness and istiqamah. Whereas when we go to other people and take their opinions, okay, that's right, that's wrong, that's imbalance, we always keep shaking, and we'll always keep faltering. So knowledge about the deen, what am I supposed to do, the fard and the sins which I'm supposed to abstain from, this has to be acquired for us to have that balance. Like if a brother who is working in maybe a company, and then in the meeting he's called to drink alcohol, he knows that this is balance and I'm not supposed to do this, and that's how he will basically describe his balance. But of course, if he knows that, if he does not know, then that's where he will fall in that imbalance. And then the second is balance towards the people, the knowledge of balance, and this has rights and responsibilities and the hukuk of other people, the rights of other people. So it's very essential to know who are my relatives and what is my right upon them and their right upon me. So a husband, a wife, children, parents, siblings, we have to see and know, okay, what is my responsibility towards them. As a father, okay, these are my responsibility. SubhanAllah, everything is defined in the Quran and Sunnah. As a father, this is my responsibility. As a wife, this is my responsibility. As a son, this is my responsibility towards my parents. And the moment we know this, we will strike the balance. Again, the problem here is that it's not based upon knowledge. People, they do anything and they do everything which is out of balance, and therefore we see so many divorces, so many family clashes, so many subhanallah property matters within the siblings, within the family, where they're going out of balance and they are not referring to the book of Allah to see the matters. It's simple, but people are fighting and the siblings are fighting and things are not done appropriately. So when it comes to our relatives, we have to know what is their rights, what am I supposed to do for them, and what is the actual balance here described by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, when we look at our role in this life, like what are we supposed to do and how can we acquire solutions. Number one, we said that we have to set our boundaries, and those boundaries have to be based upon the Quran and Sunnah. That's our furqan, that's our criteria. For any, whether it's worship, spiritual aspect, its emotional aspect, or its physical aspect, we always have to set our criteria, right? And this is where we will take our balance from. If we do that, 95% of the times, we will be in a positive state of mind and we won't be facing problems. Yeah, it's just some 5%, we might face issues, we might have disagreements, which is fine. But here, when we set our boundaries, Quran and Sunnah, this is my boundary and this is where I take my balance from, then that will be a proper solution. And setting boundaries when it comes to responsibilities towards others. So again, we have to always see and prioritize that my requirement in this place, in this relation is more than the other. And that's how one can set his boundaries. So for example, if it's a mother who has just given birth to a child, now at that moment, her responsibility with that child is the utmost at that moment, because the child has to be nurtured, the child needs literally, a care has to be carried, has to be put in place, cannot move, cries. At that time, that's the requirement. One cannot say that at this moment I have some other things, so that will cause that imbalance.
So you have to So basically, it's prioritizing matters, due to their importance, like you said. So just like someone says, I'm supposed to go to work today, but I don't want to go to work today. I want to worship Allah all day long, and I won't go to work. Okay, this is a good deed, but it's an improper implementation.
That's right.
You've got the priorities mixed up here. And in fact, we know as Muslims, and this is something people don't realize as well, you could be sitting at your desk doing your work as you're saying, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, as you're checking a file. But, I remember many times people have asked the scholars, like, there was even, I think, Sahaba or people of the past, they would work, for example, as doing their bread. And as they were doing the bread, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, the scholars, this is fine, to do these kind of things. Even when you're on the treadmill, if you're exercising, listen to a dars, listen to Quran, make dhikr, this is all fine. People have that misconception of, worship or dhikr or reading Quran, listen to a lecture. You must be kind of sitting there, doing nothing in the mosque, in your house, in a quiet corner. This is not the case. Throughout your day, you're driving in your car, you're making dhikr. You have a gap during the day. You could be walking from one office to the next floor in your building where you work. Make dhikr.
That's right. And that's something, which, as you mentioned, where we are here actually balancing things. And subhanAllah, if we do that literally, and at the end of the day, if we try to track, we will see and we will be literally surprised that so much was done, whereas we were just waiting for that right moment and that secluded moment to seek knowledge and to listen to others and those things. So this is something where we have to understand our responsibilities, and we also have to see and set boundaries for ourselves. Number two, also what we can see is adaptability, that we have to adapt to the situations. Everyone might not be having same situations, whether it's family, whether it's work, whatever the case might be. People are into different situations. Now what happens is we lose our balance of our life just to live the life of someone else. That's where we go out of balance. So we see someone get really influenced, and then now we forget about our roles and responsibilities. Every human being who is sent on this earth, he is sent with roles and responsibilities towards Allah and towards the creatures. Now he might have a different situation, like a different place, a different setup, a different challenge altogether, could be emotional challenge, physical, psychological challenge, but everyone has to do something. As far as the person is sane, they have to do something, and they have to adopt their situation. They have to adopt to the situation they're living in. And one cannot say, as we most of the times we listen to this, the excuses which are made, I don't have this, I don't have those resources, I don't have that. And even subhanAllah, when it comes to knowledge, people say, okay, I don't have knowledge, therefore I'm not practicing Islam. Okay, but who stopped you from seeking knowledge? Like in today's time, things are much easier, we would say, especially in this time and age, to acquire knowledge. One can do literally from sitting at home, from his tablet or phone. So adapting to the situation is again where this will solve our problems, and not trying to be someone else or live someone else's life, which is a problem. Putting things in their perspective, this is what we discuss, prioritizing things, and when we put things in their perspective. So in psychology, they also call this as vital behavior. So vital behavior is something you do it at that time. When it's required, you do it at that time. So as you mentioned earlier, it's time for work, but the person is busy in something else. It's exam time, but I have to finish this game and then forgetting about the exam. It's a meeting, but I'm busy on WhatsApp with my friends, or I'm planning something else. That's not vital behavior. Vital behavior is like when the azan is given, the iqamah is given, it's time for prayer. This is vital behavior. When I am hungry, I go and eat food. This is vital behavior. Similarly, what's required from the person at that moment, when a person does that, then he's striking the right balance. So if it's, as you said, if it's workout time, the person works out, and that's fine, having his intention clear, his intention is good, he's balancing it, so he does that. When it's time to travel, the person might be doing something else. No, it's travel time, they are calling your name, and it's time to fly. The person does that. So that's vital behavior, and once we do that, we will have balance in our life. Another aspect is using wisdom and using hikmah. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim, the most wise, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we look at his life, when we look at his decisions, when we look at his da'wah, we see that he was very wise. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did it with wisdom. And one of the examples when we look at from his grandsons, where they wanted to correct a person, I believe it was Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhu, when they saw an elderly person who was making wudu wrongly. So they wanted to correct the person. Now, they know that they are young and the person is very old. If they go up to him directly and they tell him that do it like this, he might feel offended. So what they did, they went and they started doing it the right way in front of him. They started doing wudu in front of him in the right way, and when the person saw, then he realized, okay, I was making a mistake. So it's using hikmah, it's using wisdom, where a person can strike the balance. And similarly can be said, when it's about, I know that if I go to a place that is haram and I'll fall into something which is wrong, then a person can politely say no or reject it, and that's actually striking a balance. When a person knows that something in a place which is not appropriate, where I'll have to look at haram or see haram, then a person can excuse himself, whether it's friends or family members. A person can excuse himself, and then that will be actually striking the balance, because he has taken his criteria from the Quran and Sunnah.
Jazakallah khair for sharing that with us, and may Allah reward you for tuning in. And now we have some idea of the importance, and as well as some ideas on how to attain a balanced life, inshallah. Until next week, inshallah, I leave you with the same greetings as always, which are the greetings of Islam, the greetings of peace. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.